Hi, I'm Nancy with Organizational Learning and Talent Development. If there's one word that sums up the work environment right now, it's change. COVID 19 has brought sudden and rapid change that's turned our lives and our workplaces upside down. Many of the processes that we had in place pre COVID are no longer feasible, and we've had to find new ways of getting things done. Most people don't like change, they find it hard, and change at work rarely happens without some trial and error along the way. And while some employees may be excited about it, the uncertainty can make others apprehensive about and even resistant to change. And that can make it hard for supervisors to keep their employees engaged and productive while making sure that things are running along smoothly. Fortunately, there are proven strategies to help you effectively manage change and enable your employees to successfully navigate and even thrive during transition. In this video, we're going to focus on the change cycle model. This model has 3 phases. We'll look at how people go through each phase at different paces and what their emotions and behaviors look like in each phase. So this is the change cycle model, and the 3 phases are red, yellow, and green. You might think of the behaviors associated with each color like a traffic light. So red means stop. In this phase, the person is resistant to the change. They may feel a sense of loss at the old way of doing things. That might bring on feelings of skepticism or resentment. You can think of the yellow phase as slow down or proceed with caution. This phase is where both discomfort and discovery occurs. It's where you're climbing the mountain of change without fully understanding it, which is the discomfort, and then you reach the top and you see the change clearly as you descend. That's the discovery. The yellow phase is also where the danger zone can occur. The danger is of a person being so uncomfortable with the change that they either stay stuck there or they revert back to the red phase. The third phase, green, is where the change has been accepted and becomes the new normal. In other words, go ahead with the change. It's important to keep in mind that everybody goes through these phases at their own time and at their own pace. Once you identify which phase of the change cycle a person is in, then you can use effective strategies to help them move to the next phase. We're going to look at each phase and identify some unique behaviors that you might see in each one. We'll start with the first phase, the red phase. When people start to go through change, they often experience feelings of fear and resentment. Their thoughts about the change might be cautious and skeptical. They may seem threatened or even paralyzed by the loss or the fear of what the change might bring, and their behavior will show resistance to the change. Some of those behaviors might include concentrating on old routines, working slowly, or maybe asking a lot of questions as they try to process the change. So here are some tips from the experts on managing employees who are in the red phase. First, listen to the person and acknowledge their concerns and fears. Give them time to process the change and be patient with them while they sort things out. Sometimes the difficulty in managing resistance to change is because you've already had advance notice of it, and you've had time to process it, and you've already gone through all the phases of the change cycle. So keep that in mind when you have employees in the red phase challenging the change. Providing empathy and support greatly helps them accept and positively deal with the transition. It's also important to communicate as much as possible. In fact, you can't over-communicate during change. And make sure that you communicate in more than one form. So for example, announcements in meetings along with emails, and maybe even articles and newsletters are just some examples. When a person has successfully moved out of the red phase, you will see less anger and resistance and more acceptance of the change. They will also begin to take more ownership of the change instead of avoiding it. The next phase is the yellow phase. This is the phase where if something is going to fail, it will happen here. And it's also where you will be making mistakes and learning from them. This is usually the most unproductive phase and also where the most discomfort occurs. It's the beginning of implementing the change and it's still really hard. It's also where you're cresting the mountain and you're beginning to see the change as the new normal. One of the hardest parts of this phase is that you have to keep moving forward. Because if you don't, some people can become so uncomfortable that they get stuck here, or they might even revert back to the red phase behaviors of resistance to the change. So your job as leader is to move them past this danger zone. Feelings, thoughts, and behaviors in the yellow phase will look very different depending on whether the person is just entering or they have just passed the danger zone. So at first, the person will most likely be experiencing feelings of anxiety, thoughts of confusion, and probably very unproductive behaviors. However, once they push past the danger zone, they begin to view the change in a more positive light. The feelings change to anticipation. They become more resourceful in their thinking about the change, and their behavior becomes more energized. So, some strategies for successfully managing employees in the yellow phase include having patience with yourself and everyone else and not getting overwhelmed. This is the time to focus on small chunks of work and setting short term deadlines. In this phase, it's tempting to give up, but keep persisting. As you start seeing a clearer vision of the change, keep taking one step and then another. And after a while, you'll stop feeling like you're walking into a headwind as you start to see momentum grow. Maintain your perspective too. Expect some confusion and frustration in this phase and avoid perfectionism because expecting perfection will only set you up for frustration when things don't go as planned. This phase is also the time when you need to be the most visible. Make sure that you're collaborating with your team. This also is going to bring better results because you're looking at the process from multiple perspectives. When someone has successfully moved out of the yellow phase, you will start to see them becoming more innovative and creative in their thought processes. You'll also see more transparent communication, decision making, collaboration, trust building, and team cohesiveness. The final phase of the change cycle is green. In this phase, you move from discovery to understanding, and the change becomes the new normal. This is the smoothest to manage of all the change cycle phases. People will experience feelings of confidence and satisfaction, thoughts that are pragmatic and focused, and behaviors that are productive and generous. Those behaviors might include increased confidence in tasks, flexibility in responding to continued challenges, and helping and mentoring their teammates. Keep in mind that some employees will move to the green phase faster than others, so encourage them to talk up the positives of the change and really champion it to their colleagues. Also, identify lessons learned, both positive and negative, for the future, and make sure that you're celebrating your accomplishments. Since the change is new, there may be adjustments that need to be made along the way. So expect that to happen and be flexible in your response when it does. And be open to the suggestions and feedback of others regarding the process. They may have a great idea that could make the process even better. Managing change effectively increases resilience, engagement, and productivity. Using these strategies can help your team achieve exceptional results, even in the most unpredictable times. Thanks for watching.